Hello YouTubies, so this is Lailoken. So this is a video response to Amber Honey Rain's 7 witchy questions. So I'm just going to jump right into them. Number 1, biggest disaster spellwise. I've never had like a disaster. I've never almost burned my house down or almost caused a flood or anything like that. I would say my biggest disaster spell-wise is that sometimes it hasn't worked, and then I don't know why it hasn't worked, and usually the reason why it hasn't worked is because I did not think of the ultimate outcome, and maybe on some subconscious level I sabotaged myself and it didn't happen. Um, I think that sometimes there's just duds and nothing happens, and that's just the way it is. Um, but I think the reason is because the planning and the preparation that I put into it, I did not think of the outcome, and I think that the possible outcome of that spell may have had adverse effects, and so it just didn't. It just didn't happen. It just kind of fizzled. So that's my biggest disaster spell-wise. Number 2, something you wish someone told you when you were a new witch. Now that's a very good question. I would say nothing. I would say that it's all a learning process, and I'm happy with the way everything went for me. There were books that I read which didn't do anything for me. There were some books that did, and there were some books that just really resonated with me. But everything leading up to where I am now, I believe, is just the way it was supposed to happen for me. Now, if I was starting out today, I wish someone would tell me that basically there's several thousands of books out there on witchcraft, and I would say that only a handful of them are really, in my opinion, worthwhile. You can look in the back of the book and you can see who the author referenced, and if you follow those references back, you find that a lot of the information is really just based on a handful of books. I think that that's the information that I would want to have today if I was studying witchcraft. So I would just, instead of buying those thousands and thousands of books, I would just buy that small handful of books. Number 3, what is your biggest witchy pet peeve? Now this is actually the question I thought the most about, and I didn't think I had any witchy pet peeves because I thought I was better than that, and then I found out that I am a pompous, arrogant know-it-all. So I actually had a lot of witchy pet peeves, and after sorting through all of them and consolidating them and breaking them down into groups and subgroups and subcategories, it all boils down to ignorance. So my biggest witchy pet peeve is ignorance. Now, what I mean by that is people who either assume or just run with some information because they heard it or they read it somewhere, and they never really find out the source of it, and so they just keep perpetuating this piece of information which is not exactly accurate. So that is my witchy pet peeve. I wish people would actually find out the source of information and not just run with the assumption that it is true, especially if it has negative connotations or if it puts a certain group in a bad light, or if it just if it just erodes at the confidence of that group. I think people should really look into where something comes from before they just keep perpetuating it. Number 4, when did you first know that you were a witch? When did you know this would be your path? That is a very good question. I would say when I was very, very young, I had several experiences where I knew I was different. I knew that I had a inner sight that other people, I found out later on, did not have. Um, And it took me a very long time to actually be able to harness that and understand it and actually be able to control it. And when did you know this would be your path? Probably when I was around the age of 13. I knew that I had a different belief and philosophy of life, and this eventually evolved into what I follow today of Wicca. Number 5. What is the best witchy book you ever read? The best witchy book I ever read is actually 2 books. It is The Witch's Way and 8 Sabbats for Witches by Janet and Stuart Farrar. These 2 books are the best witchy books ever, in my opinion. When I bought those books at Moe's bookstore in Berkeley, California, years and years ago, back in the 80s, that is where my journey really began. I think that those 2 books are the best books ever. All right, number 6, the best witchy TV show or movie you've ever seen. Well, everybody's been saying The Craft. I have to agree. I think that The Craft is really one of the best witchy shows, movies. I lived down in Burbank years ago, right around the time this movie was coming out, and I went to a meetup and met the lady, and she was the technical director for The Craft. And so I got sort of a little insight into the movie before it came out. So it was kind of like when I went to the theater and finally did see it, I kind of already had a little bit of I already knew a little bit about the technical director and how she really advised them and gave them information. So a lot of it was really, accurate. Have you ever doubted your craft? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that if you are not questioning and doubting, then I think that you are robbing yourself of the opportunity to learn and grow. I think you have to doubt it. Let me see. And I break this down into 2 parts. I break it down into, have you ever doubted your ability to practice magic? And have you ever doubted your belief? So on both points, I would say yes. I would say I have doubted my magical abilities, and I have doubted them before. I have doubted them afterwards if it did not work. If it did work, then it absolutely reinforces it. Of course, later on, a spell can work, and you see it work, and you know it worked, and later on down the line, you're about to cast another spell, and of course, you doubt it. Or at least I doubted it. But this is the other thing I wanted to say was that while I am in the moment of working magic, I absolutely cannot doubt it. That is the only time I cannot doubt it is when I'm in the moment. I can doubt it before, I can doubt it afterwards, but I cannot doubt it during. And then the other part is my belief. Have I ever doubted my belief? Absolutely yes. I have doubted my belief. And again, I have to question and challenge it in order for it and myself to grow. And it is a constantly evolving process. So that's the way that I see it. So there's the answer to my 7 witchy questions. I look forward to seeing yours. And again, this is Lailoken. Blessed be.